morning, brother. Håfa Adai, good morning. Thank you guys for joining me. My name is Senator Roy A.B. Quinata, Oversight Chairperson on Committee on Infrastructure, Economic Development, Simon Sanchez High School, Disability Services, Self-Determination, and Historic Preservation, Housing, Public Accountability, and Guam Buildup. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for taking out time to join us this morning and, get this plan all together. The Committee on Infrastructure will now convene the roundtable hearing today at Friday, February 3rd, 2023, and the time is currently 2:13. Sorry. For the record, and in accordance with the Open Government Law, public notices were disseminated to all senators, stakeholders, and the Guam Daily Post on Friday, January 27, 2023, and again on Tuesday, January 31st, 2023. Notice of today's hearing was also available on the Guam Legislature's website. So today I want to acknowledge the community partners. Sorry, I'm not. Tomas Cruz from GWA. Okay. Chris Budazi. Thank you. David Scholing. Okay. Chief Stephen Ignacio. Lieutenant Mike Archangel. And Police Officer 3 Morgan Regis. Director of Land Management Joseph Borja. Vera Tapasnia, Governor's Office on Military Buildup. I'm not too sure who this next person is from DPW. Linda Ibanez, DPW. Vince Ariola, DPW. Okay. So, joining me for this morning is Senator San Nicolas, Senator San Augustine, Senator Tello Taidegui, Senator Tom Fisher. Anyone else? No, we're good. General rules on conduct. All conduct must abide by the rules of the conduct of quality assurance standards. 1. Individuals testifying shall be first recognized by the chair before speaking and shall state their name for the record for record-keeping purposes. 2. Question and testimony shall be confined in the substance of nature on the agenda. Personal interference as a character or motive of any senator or individual testifying is not permitted. Individuals speaking shall only use respectful and professional language and conduct. The chairperson of the committee may order the removal from a hearing or committee on subcommittee of any member of Liheslaturan, Guåhan, and who fails to observe proper decorum pursuant to the 37th Guam Legislature Standing Rules. Any violation of this general rule of conduct will be resulted in removal from the hearing by the host, which is myself. Okay. Håfa Adai and good afternoon, everyone. I've called this roundtable hearing, provide all listening audience and the people of Guam and the community stakeholders open discussion and assessment of our island's key infrastructure agencies of the government of Guam. Oftentimes, local motorists experience horrendous major traffic disruptions on their daily commute, causing traffic delays and seeking alternate routes. From waterline breaks to down power lines, Guam's infrastructure has continued to be a primary concern for the safety of our island drivers, including cyclists and pedestrians. This roundtable hearing, we will discuss and assess matters relative to Guam's vulnerable infrastructure that will help identify and remedy potential solutions and preventative measures to avoid similar situations in the future. On January 19th, motorists experienced hours-long traffic delays due to a waterline break underneath the road of East Agana. With little to no advance notice, local commuters were detoured through alternate routes which affected other intersections. In preparation of heavy haul cargo transport for the Guam Okudu power plant components in Dedido, traffic management and communication plans continue to be a concern for local commuters. Guam's lack of advanced instructional strategic plans, road construction will continue to affect our major conditions on the island. In efforts to avoid a similar situation occurred in East Agana, we would like to work collaboratively with DPW, GPA, GWA, and GPD, as well as a partnership with the Mayor's Office in offering advance notice of constructions and project updates and traffic advisory for all motorists so that we can observe all posted speed limits and project signs and plan alternate routes. For decades, our island's infrastructure has gone through a lack of systematic investments, and pursuant to U.S. Public Law 117-58, the infrastructure law, the largest long-term investment will make our life better for the people of Guam. Through the Territorial Highway program, Guam would expect to be receiving approximately $96 million over the next 5 years in our roads, bridges, and to improve Guam's safety transportation system and to ensure reliable roadways. Over 5 years, our island will receive over $5 million in 402 formula funding in the highway safety traffic programs, which will help to improve driver behavior and reduce death and injuries from motor vehicle related collisions. As chairperson of Committee on Infrastructure, I'm confident that we as a community can remind local drivers and practice caution when commuting through traffic at all major intersections. I would like to now invite Director Vince Ariola for your testimony.
Okay. Thank you very much, Senator, and other senators on the panel and the committee. Congratulations to the new senators. I see our distinguished experienced senators here. Senator Tello, good to see you always. Senator Joseph Augustine. Mr. Chairman, it's good to be here, as well as Senator Tom and Senator Nicholas. Good to be here. Thank you for having this roundtable on the roads. I don't have a prepared testimony, but I did want to touch on some of the issues that we do have coming up, and I'm just going to come straight out. Okay, I know we did have that traffic issue that happened about 2 weeks ago. That's probably the first in maybe 6 or 7 years where Marine Drive was closed. The last one was about 6 or 7 years ago when we had a sinkhole in East Agana. The fact of the matter is, every single road that we have here in Guam has some form of utility underneath. That's a fact. Every single day, I can verify, and my colleagues over at Guam Water Works, there's going to be water leaks in all, if not all, our streets and our roads. It's inevitable. We live on an island. That's just the way this works. That's number one. Number two, where we have roads, especially our major roads, that's about as much as we're going to get, and that's a function of our land capacity right now. Like Marine Drive, we're not going to be able to expand that into any more lanes or any more turns or whatever. That's about the max we're going to get. Route 8, Route 10 are about the same. The easements that we have there is what we have. The only major roadway that we have in design is just about done. That will really funnel a lot of the traffic north would be the Tizan Parkway, going through Tizan, coming down the cliff and meeting up at the Home Depot traffic light, and then intersecting with Route 10A. We've got designs to expand Route 10A up toward the airport and take the traffic all the way to the overpass, if you will. So that's the only major one that we have. One that we have in design right now, or is actually in assessment, is, I like to call it the horseshoe, from Talofofo going south all the way around the island, the southern end of the island, to Agate. When I first got on board about 4 years ago, I asked, how come that road hasn't really been touched? And they said, basically, because the government of Guam doesn't own many portions of that road. And so if we're looking to expand the road, add additional lanes, through the use of our FHWA grant funds, we have to have complete fee simple, the government of Guam has to have complete fee simple ownership of the road. So what we're doing right now is we're having an assessment, we're having a study done of the entire roadway south, again, from Talofofo all the way around to Agate, if not Santa Rita. And that will tell us exactly where the portions of the road, we basically don't own, what the easements are like, what areas we can expand if needed, and so on and so forth. On the other hand, I hear from the academics that the road in Guåhan and in the Milaso area won't be around for the next in 25 years. You know, they're saying climate change and sea level rising will basically take over that road. As a matter of fact, my dad who just passed, was teasing me. He goes, "Boy, I think you better just sell the beach if we're going to lose the road." I'm hedging my bets that it's still going to be there, because they've been saying that for 50 years, that road is not going to be there. I don't know, but that's something to consider. Either way, we are looking at all the ownership issues throughout that southern end of the island. Another issue I wanted to bring up, you know, with the traffic, because I understand your concerns with traffic. That is my number one priority at DPW. We run the traffic. That's why when that, you know, if it's a simple water break out in the village, I don't even take issue with that. You know, there's very little utilization. There's very little traffic. Marine Drive has an average of about 33,000 cars going through Marine Drive daily. And you look at that number, that's a lot of cars going through. I can, just a little bit of a story for you senators. When that break I think we got the call like around 4:30, something like that. And, you know, first I said, Waterworks can handle it. Then I just said, that's Marine Drive. That's more a responsibility to us than it is to Waterworks to fix the leak. So we got there. Linda and I were already down there. We had our highway crews down there. The folks from Waterworks were down there. And in short, let me just tell you what happened. As soon as we got there, I basically took charge, because it's my roadway. The sun was coming up. We said, here comes the traffic, right? We have to do something. So we put our heads together. It was myself. It was GPD. I remember, I believe the officer's name was Officer Dodd, D-O-D-D, and Linda, myself, Vince Pangilinan from Waterworks, and a couple others from Waterworks, and then there was a contractor that was down there as well, and the contractor. So we basically huddled off on the sidewalk, and and first thing I said is, I can only close one lane of Marine Drive. I can't allow, in all our highway encroachment permits, we never allow more than 2 lanes closure. There's going to be some times where we just can't, right? And then that will say, you got to do this on the weekend. But an experience like that was an emergency. So what we did is we opened a southbound lane, that left turn. We opened that southbound lane to go north. We closed 2 lanes where the water was really gushing out. The road was already buckling. We were not going to allow any cars there. And then we opened 1 lane, which was the inner lane. So we had 2 lanes. And we all did that within like 25 minutes. You know, the cones were there. Kudos to GPD. I called Chief Steve. I mean, within minutes, he had, I'd say maybe 10 officers, if not 12 officers there. Everybody was, myself, Linda, we were laying out cones. You know, we knew we had to take care of that traffic. Waterworks, of course, you know, they brought their crew down for traffic control and everything. But, you know, I was impressed with how we handled that. I think the problem we're gonna have is these things. The more you say something's going on, or the more you say something is wrong, the more people are gonna come and see it. That's just human nature. And so we had so many people drive by, both on the northbound, on the southbound lane and going north. And everybody rolled their windows, had to take pictures. Police officers were literally screaming at them, get off your phone and move. Literally, we were doing it. Our traffic control guys were doing it as well. So you want to talk about traffic, these things got to really go. And so now tomorrow, right, we have that GPA transport. We've been sitting down at the table for well over 8 months planning this. We've tried and we've done as much as we could to protect the assets. That's number one. Of course, human life as well. But you know, we know it's going to be a long, slow process. This transport mod and the module itself is going to take can go anywhere from 1 to 3 miles an hour. So we're looking anywhere from 10 to 12 miles, literally from leaving the port to Ukadu. GPD is heavily involved in this. We are heavily involved. G4S, we've got 3 or 4 contractors involved here. Engineering assessments have all been done, and we've, you know, I know we pulled the trigger late to actually give a date and time, but I think even doing that, so I think the entire island of Guam already knows what's going to happen. I think we've done more than our share of public outreach. That being said, this is going to be our worry, is not so much just the wait and the slowness. It's going to be the gawkers. It's going to be the people who are tafu, those who want to see and get right up close and stuff like that. And instead of, you know, our word really is stay off Marine Drive during those hours. And you really should stay off Marine Drive. I think if you want to see this thing pass through, go to Mosa's, go to go to House of Chin Fee, have dinner with your family, go to CPK, go to Crust, go to Linda's, and no, they didn't pay me to say this. I'm just thinking of the residents along that route, you know. You know, and I've said from the very beginning, I think this is going to be like it's going to be like a parade. It's going to be like Liberation Day parade, because he's going literally 1 to 3 miles an hour, and this is going to be a huge module. But there's going to be 16, if not 17 of them going down on alternate days. So all in all, this is going to take a little bit over 3 weeks to do. You know, we prepared as much as we can, and we'll you know, we've got insurance, we've got a spare bridge, we've got a contingency plan that's ready to move. I'd like to say as quickly and as efficiently as the military. So, you know, we're set for this. But again, back to traffic. There's all kinds of things we could do to work out traffic issues, but you know, I know just that was a perfect. Actually, the lieutenant governor called me and said, "This is the perfect practice for that upcoming GPA transport. If something goes wrong, what do we do? You know, we huddle on the side, we decide where we're at, because you know, you can't just have the same plan, because this is a 12-mile route. Anything could happen within there, and wherever an issue happens, we're going to have to think on the fly, on the spot, and how do we move the traffic depending on what routes we have." But you know, having worked with GPD and the people at this table, I can tell you right now, I thought we did really good there. But some other issues that you may want to consider for additional traffic issues, you know, we certainly need land acquisition, certainly need funding. Utilities are a big issue. You know, I can tell you right now, where the new Don Donkey is, there's a design in place, and we're working with the owner of Don Donkey to make that entire frontage of theirs, where to take the utilities underground, and where that sidewalk is, that'll be a through lane going up to the airport, so that the Marine Drive traffic isn't hampered as much. Once you get in that right lane, you'll shoot basically straight up to the airport until that left turn from Marine Drive comes. Mass transit, you know, I know everyone's not too many people are a fan of transit. There's, as I understand, we've got 60,000 cars on Guam. So you work that out with a number of homes, and everybody knows every home, every household has what, 2.5, 3 cars, and that's just the way it is. I'm not recommending this. This is not the position of the administration. I throw it out because we've been there, done that. But you might want to look at doing color coding, or license plates on certain days, odd and even numbers on certain days. You know, that would force people to either carpool, take mass transit, not go to work, things of that nature. But you know, we're in the year 2023, so we got to start thinking a little bit maybe outside the box, if you will. And we are here to open to suggestions. You know, I've worked well with many of the senators here, and you know, as you said earlier, Mr. Chairman, you know, we just want a better Guam. It's very simple, and I know I speak for the governor and lieutenant governor. They want a safe, a healthy, and a prosperous Guam. Yeah. So that's basically all I have. Thank you very much.
Before we get to questions, I'll just give a courtesy to Police Chief. Good.
There you go. Good afternoon, Chairman Quinata, Senator San Agustin, Senator Taitigui, and Senator Fisher. So with respect to some of the things that you brought up earlier regarding this roundtable discussion and hearing on some of the issues regarding our roadway. You talked about our bicyclists. We've been working with the bicyclist community for many, many years since I've come in. There have been laws that have been passed to try and make the roadways more safer for bicyclists to use. Also for the bicyclists to be safer on the roadways. I will say that, one of the things that maybe people haven't noticed though, with the military buildup and the amount of H2 workers coming in, bicycles, at least on Route 8, seem to be the mode of transportation. And that's one area that we're trying to address with at least that barracks and that company, because they don't understand the rules of the road on Guam. And they're out there in Azori in shorts and a tank top, lugging their clothes to the laundromat or returning to from the grocery store and trying to navigate a bicycle and the traffic and the roadway without their helmet in place back to the barracks. I see it also down in the Harmon Industrial Park area. So that's one concern that we have. The other thing is pedestrian safety. So Guam, we do experience every year pedestrian fatalities. I'll tell you what, Route 10 to this day, Route 8, and Route 16, especially down in the area of Valencias, is a dangerous roadway for pedestrians. It increases more, again, at the intersections, again, with people panhandling. And that's another area that we try and concern ourselves with roadway safety, is the panhandlers, again, getting them off those medians and, getting them off the roadway. We do it, it's kind of like a catch and release thing. We go there, tell them get off the road, they get off, we leave, they come back, right? So that's the kind of things that we talk about. One of the other big issues that comes up with the Guam Police Department is abandoned vehicles. Cars break down, get involved in a crash, people don't have insurance, people are taken to the hospital, and the car's left at the scene. It's taken, the police officers, we get them off the roadway until the owners come back and decide, take it off the road, tow it to a repair facility. People ask us, why don't we take it to an impound facility? I'll tell you now, the Guam Police Department does not own or operate an impound lot anymore. One of the issues I had is when I came in as chief is, one of the things I inherited was an impound lot with over 67 cars. Some of those cars have been in the possession of the Guam Police Department for 10 years or more. We've been holding those cars for 10 years. They serve no purpose to the government, to the Guam Police Department. They're sitting on property that didn't belong to the Guam Police Department. It was just, we just started to occupy it up at the airport property. There's all kinds of fluids in those cars. There's oil, there's gas, there's antifreeze. And all that is sitting on a lot that's not properly licensed, not by EPA. We have no way of controlling any of the contaminants that may be seeping down into our water system, right? So one of the things I did was get rid of all the 67 cars, and we try and minimize the amount of impounded vehicles because, again, up in our lot, in our crime lab in Manila, we're starting to come into the same problems. We have cars from homicides, rapes, robberies. And, we were working closely with the Attorney General's office to kind of purge the evidence, both in the lot and even in our evidence control section, because we can't, space is limited, like Director Arreola said, and we at some point, you're going to run out of space. And so we need to start purging our cars and getting rid of them. And, we don't get involved anymore. We try not to get involved in the business of impounding vehicles unless it's for a legitimate, ongoing criminal investigation. And so with that, I'm here to also answer questions from the panel. And Senator, thank you for acknowledging that I will be leaving soon for the last meeting before the heavy haul transport tomorrow at 6 p.m.
Director Guåhan?
Joseph Borja from the Department of Land Management. I'm wondering how come nobody's sitting next to me. But in all seriousness, how many of you have gone to a school in Tizan and tried to leave Tizan at about the same time that school's out? How many of you know how many roads in and out of Tizan there are? How many of you guys know where Mariner Avenue is? How many of you guys know where Corsair Avenue is? How many of you know where Sherman Boulevard is? And how many of you have passed in front of Carbonedo Elementary School at about 1:45 in the afternoon? How many of you have passed in front of Harvest Baptist in the morning and in the afternoon at 1:45? It's quite an experience, and I invite the committee to go out and pass by those areas at those times. How many roads going in and out of Tizan? One. That one road passes over private property. It's not a public access easement. That's Sherman Boulevard. Where is Mariner Avenue? Mariner Avenue is on a map, surveyed, severed, 100-foot right-of-way, extending from the intersection of Route 8 and Carbonedo Elementary School. We call that the East Quinata to Loop Road entrance. Of course, that intersection doesn't exist. Mariner Avenue exits to the north of the main post office. Of course, that intersection doesn't exist. But the biggest cost of any road is actually the land acquisition. Mariner Avenue was deeded over to the government of Guam for a public highway by the Federal Highway Administration in 2000. Corsair Avenue extends where we call the tri-intersection. If Corsair Avenue is opened up, it becomes a quad intersection, it becomes a cross intersection. That's an 80-foot access road. It's on the map, but of course that intersection at the tri-intersection, Route 10 intersection with Route 8 and Route 16 doesn't exist now. So those would need to be developed to provide a good access road. Why is Mariner Avenue important? At the end of the day, people going home, people that live in Dededo, sometimes Jigo, people that live in Barrigada, people that live in Mangilao, other than going up the road to Sinhanya, where do they go? They go up Route 8. They head up to that tri-intersection. If Mariner Avenue is opened up, those people going to Dededo, those people going to Jigo, coming from Agana through Route 8, they would make that left-hand turn and bypass the tri-intersection, thereby alleviating some of the property. And by the way, Mariner Avenue is about 70% paved by the military. And the same thing with the early morning traffic. I've never taken that road coming from Dededo, but if you come from Dededo, I believe, and you head towards Agana using Route 16 and Route 8, I've seen it on occasion, even on weekends, where sometimes the traffic is backed up all the way up to the post office. Corsair Avenue, again, is a exit out of Tizan to get in there. And what would happen if you had a fire at one of the schools? What would happen if you had an active shooter at one of the schools? In that area also, EPA is located, Department of Education is located in there. And the exit access being used right now, Sherman Boulevard across the Golden Sea with that traffic light, really is private property. It's, I believe the landowners in that area are probating the estate of the landowners, and I'm not sure what their plans are of keeping that illegal road open or keeping that road as part of their private property. So that's basically what I had to comment on. Mariner Avenue, Corsair Avenue, which we should probably rename to something else. My apologies, Senator Fisher, I know you were in the Navy. And Sherman Boulevard, I'm not sure which Sherman. that was named after, where there's the one that marched to Georgia during the Civil War. But West Quinata to Loop Road, how do you solve that one? Probably by widening the road. I believe Quinata to Loop Road is anywhere from 40 to 60 foot wide. However, opening that up would affect those abandoned vehicles right across Carbolito. Not abandoned vehicles, that's a shop. But yeah, it's I think it's an auto shop right across Carbolito. And then you have, of course, the East Quinata to Loop Road. That intersection is also known as McMobile, because McDonald's is there and a Mobile gas station in there. But also in that area recently, there were 200 housing units opened up right next to the Totu Church in that area. And that is a high-density area on it, so you can imagine the traffic going in and out of there, and like that. Recently, I called Linda at about 10 o'clock at night. My son was going out on that road, hit a pothole, blew a tire, and DPW had that pothole repaired in an hour. So thank you very much for that, Linda. But those roads are, Quinata to Loop Road is basically used as a bypass road. If something happens in Route 8, they use that to get out of the way of the traffic congestion. So Mariner Avenue, Corsair Avenue, Sherman Boulevard, West Quinata to Loop entrance, East Quinata to Loop entrance. And again, the other large mentioning costs, land acquisition is the largest cost in road construction. But in this case, the government, the public already has those easements, 100-foot easement and an 80-foot easement. But also, I believe at the time that they put that new intersection in front of Citibank years ago, I think that was $175,000. And I think as recent as the signal light and the Quinata to Loop Road, Route 8, I believe that one cost like $350,000. And Vince would know that better than I do, but there has to be developed some sort of intersection pattern plan for Mariner Avenue on both ends. And of course, the Corsair Avenue opening up. Thank you. That's my testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Borja. Ms. Vera from Military Buildup. You can provide a brief statement, and it should be on.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and everyone on the panel. I do want to thank you for the invitation to be here, obviously to support my colleagues. And I think with regard to infrastructure, road infrastructure, and the military buildup, we have seen funding by the military by way of federal highways to DPW for defense access roads. So certainly it's coincidental because we are working on more defense access road funding with Department of Defense. We have a meeting scheduled in the next couple of weeks with NAVFAC Mariana's commander, Director Ariola, and some other team members to discuss future funding and to identify some of the roads that they can support. And then with regard to defense access roads, those that were funded obviously were in the final environmental impact statement and supplemental impact statement. And they identified the roads they believe were directly and indirectly impacted. So again, some were funded, and those that were not funded is what we will be looking at to discuss with NAVFAC Marianas. And then in a nutshell, our office provides technical and policy support to our colleagues, to the governor, Lieutenant Governor of Guam, in tracking the National Defense Authorization Act and corresponding appropriations. So we are just reviewing the 2023 which did not have any additional funding for DAR access roads. So we certainly hope to discuss that with Congress and submit Guam's needs, not just for access roads, but for other critical needs identified. So I'll switch it back unless there's, and be here for more questions, if any.
Thank you so much, Ms. Tabastia. Mr. Badassi?
Thank you, Senator. I'll defer to our acting general manager, Mr. Tom Cruz.
Thank you, Chris. On behalf of our general manager, Miguel Berdalio, Chris and I were here to answer any questions. But I wanted to, I guess, bring up 2 points. First, I wanted to thank GPD and DPW for assisting GWA during that mainline break on Marine Drive. I was down there as well with the director, Ariola, and I mean, I appreciate everything that the police department and DPW were able to do. Second thing, for GWA, you know, any water leak or water main breaks that occur throughout the island, obviously our main goal is to get in there. Unfortunately, it is underground. Get in there, fix the leak, and as best we can, and close the hole. When we're done with fixing a leak, you know, unfortunately, you know, we don't have necessarily don't have a contractor right behind us, right, to prepare the sub base and put brand new hot mix asphalt down. You know, a lot of times we would put, you know, cold mix as a temporary measure, and in the case kind of on Route 1, in this particular case, we're going to have to go with, you know, Hawaiian rock, or, you know, yeah, I guess in this place we're needing the big companies to go in there. I mean, it's a much larger area that was affected, and regrettably it was on Route 1. But, you know, my second point is, you know, for GWA, our main goal is to get in there, fix that leak, close it up, close up the trench, and let traffic go through. Because, as the director said, most, if not all, of our lines are under some road, whether it's a highway or secondary or tertiary road. And so, at this point, you know, I just wanted to make those 2 points, and thank you for the invite. And Chris and I will be here to answer any questions.
Thank you for that. I would defer now to Ms. Regis and Archangel. No comment. Okay. I just want to say thank you again to you guys for all your swift response. I know it was a huge endeavor and a very painstaking task to get that road all put back together. You know, but I know there's a lot more work to do. I want to recognize Mr. Taitano. Please turn on your mic.
Okay. Again, I just want to apologize to you and the committee for my tardiness. I was regrettably detained by a personal matter. I'll be brief. I don't have much to add to the presentations of my colleagues who have, I think, quite fully identified the potential near-term problems and the solutions to mitigate it. I did, though, want to comment on those challenges that are actually long-term challenges to this community and the solutions for it. In particular, the fact that we are an island with limited land space that's going to have great constraints on expansion of the highway system. We are under threat by climate change, particularly the coastal road network. And the solution to that is going to rest, I think, in long-term planning. Now, one thing this administration plans to do here is something that's never been done before. We're going to try and coordinate infrastructure policy with land use policy. To do that will be the Guåhan 2050 Sustainability Plan, which I believe is in the final stages of contracting the Bureau of Statistics and Plans. Senator Sanagsi and Senator Taidigo, you're well familiar with the Guåhan, having supported it. Basically, the Guåhan 2050 Sustainability Plan is the successor to the Comprehensive Development Plan, which is the basis for land use policies and zoning regulations. And because it's managed up to deal with sustainability issues, that will be the forum to deal with choices as to what we're going to do with this limited land use space, particularly for transportation needs. And it will environmental challenges, including that of climate change. And through that can come to solutions, I believe, to deal with on the long term. And again, some of these things you really have to do on the long term. to some of the near-term problems we're facing today. And so we can just at least better prepare to deal with them in the long term. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for that. I just want to recognize my colleague, Senator Parkinson, for joining us this morning. This afternoon. Sorry, offset. I will just start with my first question. Can you? I guess this is directed to Director Arreola. Can you begin to give us a brief overview on how that? I think never mind. Disregard that question. You already gave us a synopsis on that. Do we have an SOP established in regards to incidents like what would happen in East Agana? No. Oh.
I'm sorry. Yes, we do. And that falls under our highway maintenance crew.
Okay.
We do emergencies like that probably maybe once, maybe twice a month, just depending on what the issue is.
Okay.
So they're very used to responding. They handle all the heavy equipment, the transport of heavy equipment if needed. They have access to the quarry if needed. Say there's a landslide and some boulders are needed. The excavator, heavy equipment operators, things of that nature. They have the complete set of traffic cones. Again, we're guided by a lot of OSHA rules and regs, so we have to follow that. One of the biggest concerns, again, because we're out in traffic, right, is employee and driver safety. And that's very, very critical. So they're trained, they're very experienced in traffic control, traffic management, and that's very critical. And I can tell you right now, in a lot of our other construction activities, that's a huge part of the construction bill is traffic management, especially along Marine Drive. If you've seen you've seen the contractors out there, even the small ones like the telecom, they might be trenching a little 2-inch line there to put their telecom lines in there. But look at the traffic control that they have there. That's by rule, by regulation and law, and that's a lot of that is it's purely for employee safety and driver safety.
Chief, since you're still here, thank you again for all you guys' response. But I just wanted to clarify. I came around to the office around 9 o'clock, because of the delays. So did you guys deploy any operations, or do you guys have an SOP in conjunction with the DPW, or? Because I know that you guys were mainly focused down here in East Agana to, try to push out the congestion, but
Right.
specifically from Back Road and I guess Harmon Industrial area, Harmon Loop area, it was still congested just from Route 1. Is there any SOP for us to push other officers there from Northern Precinct to help alleviate the congestion and just do away with traffic lights?
So in the recent incident, what we did is the bottleneck occurred because everybody was backed up on Route 8.
Mm-hmm.
So what we did is, of course, we were focused on the main incident, which was Route 1 and 8, East Agana. But of course, that created other problem areas, and that's going to happen throughout the roadway network system. But the main congestion happened on Route 8. I remember that day because I was trying to get from the Route 8 at Tizan, the entrance that Mr. Barr talked about, down to Route 1 and 8 to kind of see what was going on. And it took me an hour. So we redeployed our personnel up to Route 8 and working at each intersection from Route 1, the tri-intersection, down to the Tizan intersection, the BP Carbolito, down to the Harvest intersection, down to the Cars Plus intersection. When we synchronized the traffic control, within 30 to 45 minutes, we cleared Route 8.
Okay.
So it was just a matter of synchronizing our efforts to align with what was going on down in Route 1, clearing up the congestion. And we kind of learned from that lesson early in the morning. So if you went by down in the afternoon for the going home from work rush hour, let me tell you, we solved that problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Back to you, Director Ariola. I know we are acknowledging technology as a tool, also an advancement. So I know that it was an emergency response, but do you guys have the, I guess, opportunity or capability to give out a mass text or like a mass social media notice that these routes are obstructed, seek alternative routes?
Well, we do have our website. I actually worked with the governor's office communications team to get the word out. So that went out. Anytime we made adjustments or changes, we let that out. But interestingly enough, I just came back from a FHWA conference in the mainland. And that was one of the subject matters. The territories were all there. And again, we're all islands, right? So that was one of the subject matters that we discussed. So we're going to follow up with something like that. Again, it's how to get the word out using technology. And so it's going to be interesting to see what we're able to find out.
Okay.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, the Guam Behavior and Wellness Center is implementing their own SMS texting system. And aside from serving the mission of Guam Behavior and Wellness Center, the idea is to be as a model to extend to other agencies for purposes such as this.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Mr. Taituno. In regards to, again, Director Ariola, back to you. Regards to bumper painting of strips and reflectors, what is the status with, I know that's not you guys.
No, it's us.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I don't know if you guys are contracting it. Maybe a military buildup is also hampering the response from contractors.
Yes, yeah, that's another contractor issue. You know, we just finished Route 4. We just finished Route 4. And even that took a while. We've got a task order for the contractor to do Route 8, all of Route 8, striping, marking, turn arrows, and all those other safety features. As we only have one contractor that can do it. We've got an IDIQ for that, so we just issued a task order for that. The problem again is, especially when you're a small company, right? He or she or the company isn't going to order all those supplies unless they have a purchase order or a task order, because those supplies are very, very expensive. The paint, the glue, the markers, the supplies, the equipment. So, it's one of those things where it takes time to get it going. Again, we have the same issues as the Virgin Islands, American Samoa, CNMI, even Puerto Rico, as big as Puerto Rico is. We're still having the same issues because we're away from the mainland. We can't just call up a trucker in Nevada if you're in California and the guy comes with 23 pallets of paint. You just can't do that. And then on top of that, they're still having supply issues, getting paint, getting markers, getting glue. So, it's a tough business we're in. But we look to have Route 8 done. For striping, painting, and marking, funding, thankfully, is not the issue. We have the federal funding for that, and they've agreed, our counterparts in Honolulu FHWA has agreed that that's a portion that they can fund, because it does improve the highways and it does improve the health and safety of our drivers. So I know it's slow. Trust me, it's a little bit too slow for my taste as well. But when you only have one contractor, you have to deal with the cards you're dealt.
Now we know it's only one contractor, so we need to find another contractor to help.
There's Hawaiian Rock. They're a paver, and they used to actually use this contractor. They took it upon themselves because they're so busy as well. They created a striping and marking painting division within Hawaiian Rock. So, we're going to work with them because they do our paving as well. So we're going to work with them to see if, again, a lot of this is a procurement issue, right? We can't piggyback on a certain contract if it just says paving. If we need to do striping, marking, whatever, we probably have to go out and do a different type of procurement for that. So we're exploring that because we know they just started their own striping and marking section.
Okay, and Director Borja, you get sorry, you gave us some intel in regards to properties that are, I guess, are not governmentally owned. So in the event the parties that own those properties want to take the lands back, have you ever discussed any plans with the leadership to mediate that kind of possible scenario?
Well, Mariner Avenue is public property. We got that from the federal government, federal highway. Corsair Avenue is public property. We got that back from the federal government, federal highway. Quinata to Loop Road is a already severed, surveyed 40 to 60 foot wide road, public easement. Sherman Boulevard is private property.
Which is the one
That's the one
adjacent to
that
Golden Market, Golden
cross Golden Sea Restaurant, right?
So the current Barragata Tri intersection would be basically converted into what it was once before, a four-way.
That's correct. That's correct.
And then the other access point would be near the post office?
Behind the post office,
Behind the
going
post
north
office.
after you pass the post office on your left.
Uh-huh.
That would probably be a complicated on and off ramp to, make that left turn going out and coming into Mariner Avenue. And then the other intersection for Mariner Avenue would be the Quinata to Loop Road coming out of Carbolito with Route 8. And there is some work being done there now, but it's a GPA project, I think, upgrading their pipeline. That's already, you just have to develop that intersection. But just, a word with DPW, intersections are very costly. I think the last intersection or the newest intersection is the one in front of Payless Market in Mighty. And if I'm not mistaken, that was actually paid, I believe, by Payless for that intersection or that traffic signal in that area.
Okay, thank you for that information. Director, sorry, back to you regarding that. How would we go back on reopening the four-way in Barragata? Is there any possible way for us to reopen that operation?
As I've mentioned in previous public hearings, we are working on a design to open up the tri-intersection. You notice that hasn't been open in quite a while, so we're looking at doing a design to allow coming from the main facility, post office, to allow a right turn into Tizen, and then coming out of Tizen to allow a right turn out, and possibly a left turn out of Tizen going north.
Okay.
And so what we're trying to do is to minimize the traffic signals and the makeup of the. So if we can keep the traffic signals to the way they are functioning now, which moves the traffic very smoothly, a right turn in will barely bother the traffic signal. A right turn out will barely bother it. But if we can do a left turn to go the same time simultaneously as the left turn going down toward Agana, again, all these things get studied by traffic engineers. The primary thing here is safety. Granted, we want to move the traffic, but first and foremost is driver safety, traffic safety. So with that's in the design phase right now.
Okay. I was, okay, thank you for that. Director Borja, you brought up, again, you're the land guru, so I was on the radio with Ray Gibson, and he had a caller call in, and they said that there's an access road within the military, so I guess Director of Military Affairs can help, Military Buildup can help us answer this question. Is there a reason why we cannot open the Radio Barragata access road that connects to, I guess, Barragata Heights? Anyone?
I don't know that connects. You're talking about Route 8A from Happy Mart towards the golf course?
Yes. I guess the back operation for the golf course radio.
Yeah,
area.
that actually dead ends at the golf course. After that, the easement is a utility easement, and that goes to Alari Heights. But it's a utility easement. There's a major power line going in there. If you go into Route 8A, you go to Happy Mart, and you go up there right before the entrance to the golf course area. There is a left-hand turn there that will take you to Barragata Heights. kind of like the access over the exits out of the commercial tire depot. But I don't think that's a surveyed easement. That's more or less Hooky Road.
Okay. And then the other one is the airport has a huge chunk of land in the center of the island. So I'm wondering, again, I'm trying to figure out what the reason is for them to cut out that access road between. Once upon a time, there was three access roads that connected in the Barragata center of the airport. Is there any reason why we cannot reopen that access? I mean, we did close off the area, but
I have
do
to
you think we
imagine,
have-
Senator, those are probably FAA requirements, safety requirements. And then in line, especially with 911, you know, I think where they really tighten things up at all airports, all of a sudden airports throughout the country just grew in land space. And not only did they grow, but they all started fencing themselves in and claiming these properties based on terrorism and things of that nature.
Okay, I think GWA. We have, and I guess Public Works. I did express this issue with you. Is there any way our future and future developments can have the sewer lines and water access operations on the outer lanes instead of the center lane? Because obviously when we have a burst or we need access to these lanes, we have to cause the disruption for traffic flow. So I'm not too sure what the future developments of the roads are, but do you guys happen to know if there's a requirement for you guys to put the sewer access and the water lines in the middle of the road, or can it be relocated to the side of the road on the sidewalk so that it's not impeding on traffic?
Well, Chairman, right now, I guess GWA inherited everything that was PUAG, which was whatever back in the day. And for our infrastructure, regrettably, it's, once we put it in, that's where it is going to be. Well, hopefully the idea is that when they install large mains, they install it for, or it's designed for 50, 100-year lifespan type of thing. Right now with GWA and a lot of our water lines, like down Marine Drive, that was, installed back in the 60s, way past, I'm sure anybody's thinking. But with regards to your question, I don't know of anything where it's required that we go down the middle of the road. I would imagine that with just our utilities, our water and our sewer, there's definitely a separation we need to have. Any other utilities that happen to be down to, like the telephone, right? We try to avoid that. On the wastewater side of the house, there's a sewer gravity line here, so that's normally our deeper ones. If we have a force main, again, we're just trying to provide some space between each of the lines, so that any future repairs, we're not hitting each other or hitting the infrastructure. But back to your question, putting it to the side of the road or on the under the sidewalks, I can say normally there's other infrastructure that prevented us from doing that, and so lots of we're just trying to find the least crowded path along any roadway. And right now, if GW were to work on any large infrastructure upgrade along Marine Drive, at this point in time with GPA having some of their power lines, underground power lines down there, and again, the whole traffic situation, it would cost a lot of money just to do that upgrade. We would, would we abandon the existing line? More than likely, but that meant there'd be a line that's still running and a line that we're going to work towards putting in. It'll get hairy, So maybe in areas like developed or areas that are going to be developed, like subdivisions, that can be worked out. I think that's a possibility. But with everything that's it out there now, our highways,
course.
our secondary roads. It does get a little tricky with all the other utilities that are there.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'm more focused on the main arteries. You know, obviously, when we have one lane closed, it causes a domino effect. So I just wanted to put on the record that I think we should approach the idea that any future development should have utility access far to the right or far to the left, so that future lawmakers and engineers and architects can ensure that we don't delay any progress for the island and don't delay anyone's daily commuting routes. So, who else?
Well, if I may again, Mr. Chairman, you've touched on one of those nexus points where infrastructure policy touches on land use policy. And he's correctly identified why this is so thorny. And I think the solution for this is going to be with long-term planning, particularly land use planning, where we think about this stuff. I think we have very capable infrastructure agencies, but they tend to, but their mission as laid out by statute is very mission focused as opposed to interrelated. And it's our hope through the Guåhan 2050 Sustainability Plan, we'll be able to connect the dots on that one and sort of deal with these issues on the long term.
Okay. So, I wish GPA was here, but I want to put this in the record that I don't understand why we have power poles in the middle of sidewalks. That's not my intent, to put utility access on the middle of the sidewalk and obstruct sidewalk access. You know, obviously we can put the bicycle lanes on the sidewalks too to help curtail the issues on the main roads. But I really want to find the answer to that, is why do we have huge, ginormous, high voltage power line poles in the middle of the sidewalk, and then it's not useful because you have a big power pole in the middle of the road. I mean, in the middle of the sidewalk. So, and I also wanted to ask is, what is the status on streetlights in our community areas? If the endeavor was to save more money with solar lights or these white LED lights, why don't we have more lights out on the public streets and in our communities? Obviously, it's shown that the more lighted the community is, then criminals are deterred from acting in those areas. So I guess I will have my own separate meeting with the director or GM of GPA on that endeavor. But I would like to defer to my colleagues here. I will start with Vice Chair Tom Fisher. If he has any comments for the panel here.
Thank you, sir. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending this afternoon. Really appreciate it. I have a few questions. This one's kind of in the weeds, but I've noticed that some of the sidewalks, at least in Hagåtña, are being painted at roughly battleship gray. And I don't know if that's your choice, but it makes the sidewalk invisible at night. And I think and it's also in front of the Visitors Bureau. The sidewalk has been painted in such a way that it makes it obscure at night, which is a danger to both automotive and pedestrian travel. That's just an observation. I don't know that anybody has.
I'll be honest, I haven't noticed that. But actually,
Go in front of Angel Santos Park. You'll see it.
okay. I can check that. I know in Tumon we kind of stay away from that because GVB has a contract to do all the road maintenance, all the landscaping, even the street lights there.
Yeah.
The only time I think we get involved is with if a traffic light or two of there goes blink or on blink mode or it goes out. That's what we handle.
Yeah, I was thinking though that, I mean, if somebody's going to undertake a public project like painting a sidewalk, they have to put some thought into it.
Correct.
And, maybe painting it a dark color is not necessarily the best choice. But
Understand.
I'd leave that to the experts. Another issue, I think this goes to you, Director, is you might remember 3 years ago, there was a accident in Tumon. A bicyclist was coming down the road and hit a drain, a grate.
Yes.
And it ended up costing the government of Guam, I think, about $125,000 in a settlement for that.
A little bit more than that.
More than that, okay, because that guy had some problems after hitting that grate.
Right.
Has your department or another department undertaken a survey? Because the same issue still exists on some of our roadways. And
In terms of the
this is
storm?
where the grates are parallel to the road, so if you're riding a bicycle down the road, your front tire hits in between the,
I thought we had those changed out, and because I remember that case.
Yes.
I think it's both a friend of ours. And,
I think if you look at, there may be others, but if you look at the grate in front of Shut Up and Fish, across from, what is that, Serena Plaza?
Okay.
The grate still exists like that, and I mean, it's a potential
I
liability.
thought we made a change out of all of those, but I will certainly check that.
Yeah, it looked like some smart guy could make some money on that one. Okay, the any more lights? Do you anticipate any more traffic lights on Route 8, or are we done?
Traffic signals?
Yeah.
Route 8. Nope, we are done.
Good.
We are done. And with regard to traffic signals, before any traffic signal goes up, or even stop sign for that matter, especially on highly used routed roads, we always require a traffic study.
Okay.
Traffic counts, traffic patterns. We work with our OHS, our Office of Highway Safety.
Right.
That's at DPW.
Yeah.
We check what the accidents are, what types of injuries. We do a complete assessment and traffic study before anything like that goes up.
Excellent, because, I mean, it's now 3:20. I can guarantee there's a bunch of angry people on Route 8 heading towards Barragata right now. You know how that backs up, especially Friday afternoon. So I'm glad to hear we can't anticipate any more lights up there. I want to ask you about the water main that broke on Marine Corps Drive.
Yes, sir.
As a result of that, I'm leasing some property, and right after that happened, there was a rupture, water line rupture within my leasehold. And I was wondering if that might have, not that you would have the answer, I was thinking, well, this is probably related to some sort of pressure rise and pressure drop as a result of the break. I was wondering if you've received complaints from other residents in the area about any disruption in private water access as a result.
No, that would probably be Waterworks. Okay. I did receive some concern about our colleagues at the Department of Labor. Okay. I think they may have had a spike in water pressure, and something might have happened there. Okay. But
yeah, because I think it resulted in some damage to my leasehold.
Right.
Because there was a lot of water in there.
Right.
Okay. Looking forward, if you were on Guam in the year, 2073, where would you expect to see the most commercial development? Because I'm thinking it might be back road, especially if the hospital goes up there.
The most commercial development, say 50 years from now? Yeah. Wow. I think it's still going to be in the Dedido area, okay. Route 3, with a military base being there, because there's still a lot of land there. I could see some on Route 15, but Route 3 I think is just going to be jammed.
Is Route 15 back road?
Route 15 is the back road.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was up there not too long ago, and with the proposed medical facility up there, plus CUC across the road, I was thinking, boy, this place looks like it's getting ready to take off.
Right, and
so
of course, when that medical complex comes out, GMH has well over 1,000 employees.
Yeah.
Guam Behavioral Health has 250. Public Health has what, 400?
You're going to need several lights, I would think. Yeah.
It's going to be crowded as well.
Okay, and then you were talking about the horseshoe, Talafofo to Agate. And you stated that Guam, we don't have fee
simple
over the entirety of the road?
Not the entire, but just certain portions of the road.
Okay, the actual road and not the shoulders?
No, the actual road. You'll have like a sliver, about maybe the size of this table, that doesn't belong to the government, but it's paved and everything. It's
right. But how? I'm just wondering, the landowner, what's to stop them from blocking the road? But how, if you wanted to acquire it, would you do it through condemnation, or would you try and negotiate
In our experience, Senator, it's been very difficult to negotiate a sale. You know, just understanding a lot of these lands, most if not all the lands, have come down through the family, right? This was my mother and father's, this was my grandfather's, great father's, blah, 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 blah. So even to sell a piece of land as big as this table is just sentimentally, it's very, very difficult. Even though you probably have zero use for it. It's difficult. So you got to approach this really, you know, with a soft touch.
Yeah, good luck.
But, you know, of course, the final resolution would be condemnation.
Yeah.
We have one pending for the balance of EPA Road. That was fairly simple because a good number of them were maybe 50-50 businesses and private residences. So we were able to buy all the properties that we needed to buy. Some were just real small slivers. Yeah, but there's one more and one left, and this individual is just standing firm. So we've got to go in and condemn that.
Yeah, I was thinking probably condemnation is going to be the only route. Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much, Senator. Thank you.
Colleagues, if I may, Senator Tello has to step out for personal reasons, so she's just going to go next. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate you accommodating me. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. I sent you, Vince, a WhatsApp on something that's been circulating around all the WhatsApp groups, and it has to do with the latest schedule on this on the equipment being transported from the port to Dedido. And it's is this something that came from you? From your department, or?
No, this came from the basically the planning group that puts this together. More specifically, it would be. Is this the one you sent me?
Yeah, I just sent it to you. Yeah.
Before I start speaking on it.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one I sent you. That's the one that's been circulating, and people calling my office and saying they don't understand it. And so I'm trying to read it and trying to figure out what intersection, Route 11, entered Route 1, NB, and then approximate time, weekday 6 p.m., approximate arrival time, and it says both arrival time and arrival time. 6 p.m. on arrival time, and then 4 p.m. on arrival time. It's very confusing schedule for people to try and find out when that big semi is going to go down the road and when they should be able to get from point A to point B.
Okay, so the first column there has the intersection, right? I think everybody knows where the intersections are. Then the next column, it says approximate arrival time weekdays. On weekdays, they plan to leave the port at 4 p.m. So just from the port alone, the port yard to that intersection of Route 1 and 11, where the old USO was, it's going to take them 2 hours to travel that Route 11. So in 2 hours, leaving at 4 o'clock, in 2 hours would be 6 p.m. 6 p.m. they're going to be at that intersection.
Okay, so it's almost reverse, because usually you'd say 4 p.m. first it starts, and then it ends at 6 p.m.
Yeah,
See
what's
how it's
missing
twisted?
here is the start time.
Right, because both columns say the exact same thing, approximate time.
And then on weekends, they plan to leave at 2 p.m. So if you leave the port at 2 p.m., you'll be at the intersection at 4.
Take a survey from everyone here too. Just look at this thing that's been sent out and see if you understand it, because it's very confusing. And this is not going to be very helpful to our community. So Vince, yeah, if you could do a little reconnaissance, check on this little schedule that's been sent out. It's very confusing.
Yes, and typically, because I'm looking at this right now, the contractor has hired a communications firm to do this. And in all their press releases, everything that's outreached, there's Doosan, there's a GPA, I believe. There's about 4 logos there. I don't see it on this. So I have to, again, these could be our worst enemies. And misinformation could be so detrimental to what's going on. And clearly, this is the first I've seen this. There's so much information missing on this.
Right.
And I have to imagine this did not come from our planning group.
Okay, so you don't think it did come from your planning group now? Okay.
Well, the
Vince,
other
please
reason
look
is
into it.
anything that goes out in the public, I have to review. That's a standing rule.
Okay, so Vince, when can the public, I mean, it starts tomorrow, correct?
Correct.
Is it in the paper today to show the exact schedule today? Because it starts tomorrow.
Right. Where we're moving the public to is go online. It's going to be in real time.
Okay.
If you go online, Power on the Move, you'll see you'll be able
Power
to
on
track
the Move.
where that mobile thing is. And
Okay.
if you're coming up on, say, the intersection of Route 30, right, Challenge San Antonio, and it's headed that way there, and you don't want to get stuck in traffic, go back towards San Vitores or go through go another route.
So Power on the Move, is that the website?
Yeah.
So just type in Power
PowerOnTheMove.org.
on the Move.
Right. .org.
.org. Okay,
Correct.
so everyone listening, poweronthemove.org. In the event, Manamku and they don't have that, online access or what, some people don't have the internet.
I am sending this to the.
Where else can they look?
I believe it's just on the website. This is, and that's why I know this didn't come from us.
Okay.
Because there's always a disclaimer.
Sure.
When you look at this, people are going to take this as written in stone, right? At
Right,
11:20, it's
Right.
going to be there.
Okay.
A lot of things could happen. So that's
So
why
other
there's
than the
always a
website,
disclaimer.
other than the website, where can they find this information?
I know they did some ads, but not with this. This is the first I've seen.
So you don't know when when it can be in the paper, or when someone who doesn't have internet access or a smartphone to go up. Where else can they look?
I know they had advertisements in both newspapers.
Okay.
But, to this degree,
Hopefully-
I don't know. I don't believe so.
Well, hopefully it's out. Well, it's today, Friday. It starts tomorrow. So if it's not, please follow up on that, because
Yes, I will.
right now I'm bringing it up because it's something that we're all going to deal with on the traffic out there. Everybody's going to have to deal with this issue, and it's going to be backed up left and right. You're going to get a lot of angry people, and people who say that they didn't know about the schedule or didn't have a schedule or they couldn't find it. Okay, so that's one thing I want to
Thank
bring
you.
up. The other one I didn't bring up is the infrastructure bill, Jobs Act bill, which we've talked about during session at one time. I gave you actually a list of what DPW will be receiving, at least for the roads. So Tyrone, I know that you're heading that office with this federal funding. If I'm not mistaken, it's a 5-year period in which DPW will be receiving, the roads and infrastructure will be receiving X amount in the next 5 years, okay? $190 million?
$96 million over 5 years, of which I believe around
196.
$15 million has already been earmarked for specific projects based on the Guam 2030 transportation plan.
Okay, can you explain to us, with that $190 million, what's the first year, the second year, and the third year? So what's the plan with that money?
Well, I would have to defer to the Director of Public Works as to how his plans to actually use the money. I would point out that this funding over the next 5 years doesn't represent too great an increase from what Guam normally receives from the Federal Highway Fund. It's probably around a 16% increase. It does help that it's appropriate over 5 years instead of lurching from year to year, which has happened in recent years in the Congress. So that helps planning purposes, but it's not that big an increase of funding. There are opportunities, though, with discretionary grants. These are grants you have to compete for. And
Wait, before you get to discretionary grants,
Right.
let's just go to the money that's already been given to DPW without going to any kind of
Right.
competitive grant, okay? How much money are they going to get this year?
it's $96 million divided by 5
Five.
years.
30-some million?
Something like that, yes.
Okay, 30-some
Not
million.
not much different this year than last year.
Okay, and do they have
It's
that money
split
now?
It's split up about
Right, for
within
5
years.
Yeah, and do you have that money already?
Again, the way we receive the money is we have to obligate it.
Right.
We have to plan for it, and we have to account for it via specific projects. Could be for design, could be for construction, could be for assessments, and of course, construction.
Can any of this money be used for village roads,
No.
secondary roads?
No.
For sure.
Identified routed
Okay.
roads.
Okay, so it's only routed roads?
Yes, ma'am.
Routed roads in which we already receive federal funding for?
This is the same funding. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
No,
routed
from the
roads,
infrastructure
bridges.
bipartisan bill? That money?
Yes, what they did is
Yeah.
they took the normal federal highway fund program and appropriated it over 5 years. And with, I think, a 60% increase
So
in
in other
the
words, we're
given
getting
year.
the same money
Same
we
thing.
get every year.
It's the same thing.
Pretty much, you know,
With
if you
a little-
recall
So
the
there's nothing
discussion.
really different.
If you recall the discussion over the bipartisan infrastructure law, there was a discussion about whether it was $500 million in new spending or $1 trillion in new spending. And it was $1 trillion bill, but it was only $500 million of new spending because the other was stuff that was going to be appropriated anyway, like the federal highway fund.
So this technically really isn't real new money. We're just getting the
There's a
same money we're getting every year. So that
Well,
means,
and two distinctions. There's a slight increase, not a great increase, in the formula funding. And the discretionary grant opportunities, their funding was kicked up. And so although it's harder to access,
Right.
the opportunities have expanded in that respect.
right, and that money is competitive, correct?
Competitive, yes. There's no
Right.
guarantee we can get it,
And
but
you are working very hard to get that money to Guam, right?
we're in the process of working DPW and
Okay.
a grant for the RAISE grant right now.
Okay. Other than that, have you updated your road plan at all? I mean, we're looking at stuff back in 2010, actually 2008, then 2010.
Yeah.
Anything else?
We're going up to 2030.
So you have.
You're
yeah,
talking
your
the
plan.
federal.
Yeah, is
Yes,
something
yes.
that we can
Yeah.
review now on a plan? No?
We're doing the GTIP for 2030.
And when do we expect that?
Gosh, I can't give a date, Senator, but I know it's due, I know it's sometime this year.
This year?
Yes,
Okay.
to the feds. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you
And
so
thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you, Senator.
Okay, Esther.
I'll send you something. Yeah, I just sent it to our communications team. Thank you.
Thank you again. I would refer to Senator San Augustine now.
I thank you folks for being here.
There's plenty others on the panel.
I only have simple questions. And I'm like you, Vince, we travel at night a lot. You talked about road markings, lane markings. How about the curbs? I'm really concerned about the curbs because we can talk about all we want to talk about the great sidewalks. I'm not worried about the sidewalks. If I'm making a left or right, anyone is making a left or right. Sometimes even if your window's clear, just roll down your window to see to make sure you don't hit a curb.
You know, Senator, as I understand, we had I think he's a traffic engineer maybe a couple years ago, and he was really surprised with a lot of the curbs, especially down in Tumon, and a few up in Marine Drive, being painted yellow. And he goes, "Why do you folks paint your curbs yellow?" I said, "So people don't hit it." He goes, that is really not a standard of MUTCD, which is, it's a manual and uniform traffic, something whatever, right? They're the ones that tell you the standard for a traffic signal, for stoplights, markers, blah, 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 blah. And actually, curbs are not supposed to be painted. You just leave them the way they are. We're probably the only jurisdiction that paints curbs yellow and coconut trees white. Don't ask me why. We did. But I understand that. I understand your point.
The curbs are put in by the government of Guam, correct?
Correct.
So it's the responsibility of the government of Guam. If I hit a curb and my car gets damaged, you guys are going to pay for it, right?
That's correct.
Okay, as long as the people of Guam hear what I'm saying.
And you're right.
So we don't have to worry about it. We don't have to hire a lawyer to get our money for our cars. Okay? On the other issue I'm concerned about is because you issue permits for when anybody's doing constructions on the road.
Oh, yes.
And I'm just concerned that some of the construction going on, it's almost last minute. You see, there's a construction, merge left. And I don't expect GPDB, the Guam Police Department, to be monitoring that when it's part of the permit. And I know you have inspectors out there that can go out there and say, hey, put a sign out here.
By regulation, they are required to put a lane closure or a warning sign 1,000 feet before the actual construction.
As a matter of fact, some of the signs out there has been there for weeks. You don't even believe that's for the construction. Then when you move up, then all of a sudden there's a flagman right there at the curb. And it just doesn't make sense.
I understand.
I'm only concerned about because the people of Guam, when they're traveling down, like Senator Roy brought up, traffic flow.
Correct.
And I know they mentioned with Mr. Bora about the possible use of Tizan. And I understand you mentioned that you have your own study that goes on to use that property, Mr. Arreola? Tizan property?
Yes, sir.
Are you guys working on that study to access that so
We are
We don't
working
have to
on,
worry?
we are working on the, like I mentioned earlier, on the tri-intersection. That Mariner Avenue, we've taken a look at that. Granted, it's paved, but yeah, I believe in our review, in our assessment, that pavement it's old. We don't believe it's going to be able to handle the traffic once we open it. So, you know, we're still going to have to do an assessment, and even to cut into that intersection at, where's that, Joe? Carbolito?
Carbolito.
Carbolito. If you turn left right now, your car will do a dive about maybe 20 feet down. So that area has to be built up. So there has to be a complete design of that. And again, no different than when we do traffic signals, a complete traffic assessment has to be done. It's called some kind of traffic study. But that has to be done for that whole area.
Understood. I just wanted to be, the
Are we-
people of
are-
Guam
are we on it?
to know that you're looking at it,
Yes,
you're
we are.
considering it. The land management people said, you have it, use it, or it just sits and it,
There's actually another area. So there's Mariner, which goes from Carbolito and comes all the way up right around that curve area past GMF. The other one is and then there's Tizan, right? And somewhere between Tizan entrance and Guam main facility, where the carnival kind of used to be, there's a road. I don't know the name of that road, but it's in Tizan, and it's a straight shot out, and we'd be able to go right over the gas pipelines. So we're looking at that as well, just as a, but not with a traffic signal though. You know, so we're doing a traffic study to see what that would be like, because once people get there, you know, it's going to be difficult to make a left turn, or do we give them a right turn, or things like that.
okay, and I heard earlier you mentioned Home Depot. Are you looking at building the road to go up from Home Depot straight into Tizan? So we don't have to go through?
Correct.
And
right.
look at the old terminal?
Yeah, it's going to come down the cliff line. Right.
Okay. My concern was with GWA. I know you inherit PUAG's problems. The current roads today was not a PUAG issue. So when you say that the pipeline is done, when construction is done, contractors can identify to reroute the pipes. Like was mentioned earlier, get it on the left side or the right side of the roads. When I look down Marine Drive, I've driven down that road over 40 years. So PUAG to GWA, how long has GWA existed? Quite a few years. Okay, so please, other than the future, start being, I believe GWA needs to be more proactive on saying, we're going to start rerouting the pipes. Get it off the main. Get it to the left or right. Figure it out. And I know you're going to say you need money, but when you do the CCU and the PUC thing and they say increase the rates, don't say you need money. You're going to get the money because PUC is going to decide. You're going to get the money. But when we don't see any changes such or continue to see power poles on the sidewalks, I mean, who paid for the sidewalks? Was it DPW or was it the federal government? I don't know. Maybe
DPW paid for that.
They pay for that, but you don't get a cut from GPA when they put a power pole, right?
Right.
Maybe you need to get paid for that.
Well,
No, and I say this because if I'm correct, down in Agate, they started to put the power underground. It's messy, but it's nice now, right? But there's no reason to say when a typhoon, hopefully it doesn't ever come because we haven't had for a few decades right now, okay, over a decade. But we can't say our power lines are down when it should have went underground. Should have went underground. We shouldn't have been making any more excuses.
at that time.
Yeah. Well, now we shouldn't be complaining anymore. Everything should be all underground. And I didn't want to beat up GWA on the water, but I'm hoping to see more sewer lines going into the villages. If GWA can please consider it, because there are many housing developments. Homes are very expensive. And if you're in an area where their homes are 400, 500, 600, 700,000, and we're on septic tank, shame on GWA. I just say that because why? When you got 30 or 100 homes are in that price range and they only on septic tank, it's like, wow, you lost customers. And the only one that's picking up the customers are the private companies that come and pump them out. on the septic tank. When they could have been paying you guys, for the sewer line. They can help you. Because I think on several bills in the previous terms, everybody always talked about watching out for the water lines. Well, 50 years, 60 years, same sewer line, no update, no repairs. I don't know what we're paying for. And people go and wonder. So please be mindful, the agencies. And for GPD, I'm a former police officer, so kudos to them for what they do. Okay? And thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator San Augustine. I'll defer to Senator San Nicolas now.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
It's the
Senator.
best part about being almost last. All the questions have been asked. You guys, your response to that break was actually outstanding. I want to applaud you for that. You guys got that done and out of the way as quickly as possible, and you did it very well. I can't wait for the next water break so we can do this again. Just kidding.
Not really, Senator, with all due respect.
Just kidding. But I wanted to thank you for all your hard work. My concerns with government moving forward is always customer service, how we can improve the services that we provide for the people. That's my main concern. As long as you guys are going that route and always keeping that, in the forefront of your thoughts and trying to improve customer service, I'm good with that. Secondly, I was thinking about, the traffic, and some people mention arteries, and yes, I am a heart patient, so I know the importance of roads and arteries and stuff, but my main concern with incoming Marines and, and their families and their support, how adequate are our roads and to address, the incoming tide of new people. And I'm quite concerned about that. And if you guys have, like a workbook or something, I would like to, see that. So, we can best prepare for that. They're almost here, and if you have that kind of documents and that information, I really, really would like to see that. Be very prepared for the future.
Right. That'll be in our Guam Transportation Improvement Plan. We call it GTIP for 2030.
Yes, sir. Okay. Yeah, I don't have anything further, guys. Everybody, thank you all for coming today.
Thank you.
And keep up the good work. Thank you.
Senator Parkinson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Really, the two things that I'm really concerned about with the roads moving forward, at least for the short term, really, is the power on the move. And so I just wanted to kind of get a feel for how comfortable are you guys with, and how involved are you guys really with this power on the move plan? Because the thing I'm really concerned about is twofold. One is that we don't have a good enough plan and we lose reliability of our roads, and it becomes a major problem for people getting to and fro. But the other one, I'd argue, is a little more important, is our plan solid enough that we're not going to see constant delays and put the reliability of our electric services in jeopardy just because we can't move stuff from one end of the island to the other?
I'll speak to that, Senator. Unfortunately, fortunately, GPA decided to put a power plant up in Derrida. Fortunately, unfortunately, they decided to bring in these generator modules, so to speak, in large pieces. As I understand, they could have come in much smaller pieces, but either the contractor or the manufacturer decided to send them to Guam in as large pieces as possible. So we have on island right now 12 modules, so to speak. We've got another, I believe, 4, if not 6, that are on the ocean, and then another 4 coming. So total, there's quite a bit more coming, and they're all in large pieces. I think out of maybe 17 or 18, I think only 2 are going to be able to be carried on a regular tractor trailer. The rest are going to be put on this SPMT. But from the moment we started having meetings back in May, if not June, the safety of the roads bridges, culverts, things of that nature, always been first with DPW. So the first thing, one of the first things we required them to do was to do a complete assessment of it's a 12-mile stretch. And in 12 miles, you have to know there's a lot of risk there. Anything could happen. As Senator was saying, there's manholes, there's valves, there's stormwater drains, there's sewer, there's main water lines, there's all kinds of stuff under there. Then we're going to be going over 5 bridges and 3 culverts. Risk there is high as well. So we had the initial assessment and study done by Moffitt and Nichols, and they were hired by the contractor to take a look at these loads, how they're going to be transported on these SPMTs. And these SPMTs go from anywhere from 16 axle to, I believe, a high of 24 axle. And it's a science. I understand to the extent of what was told to me and what I was educated on by our consultants, their consultants, and even the FHWA was involved here. So, you know, when the theory is when you put weight on something, the more you can spread out that weight on axles and up to, I believe it's 124 tires, you know, you spread out that weight more. It's not concentrated in just one area. So if you spread out the weight, you know, the roadways don't suffer as much, the bridges don't suffer as much, culverts don't suffer as much, and underground utilities. So that's the theory and the concept behind it. All the studies were done by reputable firms. They were checked and rechecked by reputable engineering firms. The calculations follow certain national standards. So, you know, we're at a point where, you know, all the logistics we believe we could do to prepare for this trip have been done. Actually, they were done probably as far back as maybe December. The only delay that we've had so far was really getting enough insurance to indemnify the government and to cover the government for any and all damages that occur anywhere within that 12-mile route. So we got the final terms and conditions and final insurance policy today on my desk, right before I came here. Initially, they had a $15 million insurance policy. They were able to get additional $10 million insurance policy there. So we have insurance of $25 million plus the personal guarantee of the contractor who has signed our terms and conditions, which basically says any damages arising out of this transport you will be responsible for. Let's see, so, you know, we have a traffic management plan that they submitted to us. There's going to be a complete convoy. GPD is involved with it heavily. G4S is involved heavily. DPW is involved heavily. Smithbridge, Doosan, and Pacific Unlimited. The parties, like I said, we've been meeting for 8 months, and we believe we've covered everything that can be covered. I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to sign anything that says nothing's going to happen. That's just not going to happen. And we're not going to get any engineers or any company to sign something that say, this is my work and nothing's going to break. That's just not going to happen. There's so many things that could happen in a 12-mile transport route. That's why you have insurance. That's why you have commitments, you have terms and conditions that outline this transport. At any one point in time because it's gonna hurt both parties. I'll give you an example. We start going down Marine Drive and a water line bus. That stops the transport completely. Why? Because if there's if there's a few more modules that have to be transported, well, depending where that water line is, that's got to be repaired and that's got to be strengthened because that same transport is going to go right over it. So, you know, it's a risky business. This is Guam's largest transport effort. I have to imagine. So, you know, that's where we stand, and you know, so we'll take it up to Ukadu, and then the next night, the same transporter, empty, will go back to the port. You know, and all the travel will be at night. So going up to Ukudu, it'll travel anywhere, because it's loaded, anywhere from 1 mile an hour to 3 miles an hour, max. So that's even slower than walking. That's about like your speed, Senator Joe. You're looking at me. I know you're ready to tease me, so I had to throw that out. On the way back, though, because it's unloaded, it can travel, I believe, 3, if not 4 miles an hour. So again, it's at night, you know, and it'll be a lot faster. But even then, again, you know, so we have upwards of, 15, maybe 24 trips back and forth. You know, so that's going to be a lot of weight on Guam's highways. You know, we still haven't. We're still working with legal counsel to figure out what the fee is going to be per transport, because you know, that's going to be based on the weight of each module and the SPMT, of course. So we haven't figured that out, but that'll be forthcoming, and the contractors are aware of it.
Thank you for that. The other question I had was regarding the medians. Those medians have to be torn up to be able to allow this traffic to go north, correct?
That's why they were torn up.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess my question is, would it be possible to not put those medians back? I mean, I've never been a fan of them. I've known very many people that are not fans of them, and I know that they've played some part in killing businesses on one side of the median. So what are the chances of when this project is done, we just don't rebuild those medians?
Yeah, again, those medians weren't just put in or installed or constructed just because they wanted to put a median in.
It was for federal funding on highways, right?
Right.
But we didn't extend that to anybody anywhere else on the road, so why put them back in?
What do you mean?
Well, like, is there anything mandating us to put them back in?
The mandate is driver and traffic safety. They, as I've mentioned before any traffic light goes in or any roadway is built, traffic studies are vital to the construction.
I guess I'm just confused about the medians, because if they were so vital, why did we only put them in one section of the island and not everywhere?
Because I think a big part of that is if you didn't have medians, people would be U-turning wherever they want. And I've got the police officers right there. The more you U-turn, I'm not a police officer, but I'll bet $1 to a quarter you're going to have more accidents the more you have people doing U-turns. That's just the way, you know, we're kind of like
Is there data?
You got to hurt us.
Is there data to support that we have had a drop in traffic accidents?
I have to imagine there are. Again, we run the Office of Highway Safety. Yeah. I could probably get you that.
No, I'd actually like to see. I'd actually like to see that data, because, like, I've always thought of the medians as a massive nuisance, and so I would like to see some. I'd like to see some data onto their efficacy, because if they're not effective, let's not put them back in. You know?
Understand?
Just saying. Yeah. And I guess my other question is, you mentioned that we have some roads down south that are not on public roads, they're on private property?
Yeah, well, portions of the road that we have today down south, there are portions, there are sections, there's slivers, so to speak, of private property.
Yeah.
And that's just a function of progress, right? You know, those roads have been there forever, and so have some of the private. Today, Senator, as we speak, you know, we get permits, we get all kinds of maps that go through my colleague here, Joe Borja, and you'll see there's private property and all kinds of easements. And you know, when either surveyors or people just decided to do subdivisions and say, okay, this is the dedicated easement to the government, you know, they forgot that they included portions of their lots there. I have an easement in Santa Rita dedicated to the government of Guam. There's a house right smack in the middle of the easement. So I'm working with the subdivider. Who should remove that house? Should it be the government because it's on the easement now, or it's the owner who subdivided it and put the easement where the house was? So it's all over the island.
Yeah, and I guess my other question is how much of this property, you know, is of these roads, like in totality, are there? And does the fact that they're on private property, I guess you kind of answered my question there. It does kind of affect your ability to do maintenance then, having these on these private properties.
Yeah, right. Well,
is there any plans to I don't know, potentially eminent domain somebody's slivers and burn them
Yeah.
under you guys? And
Yeah.
if you do you guys have a dollar figure on how much you'd have to eminent domain to get everything under your umbrella?
Yeah, earlier I mentioned that that's what we're doing. We're doing a study right now for the southern roads from Talafofo all the way to Agate, if not Santa Rita. And that will do an entire assessment of where the actual government easements are, where the slivers, so to speak, are on the government roads or easements, or that we think are easements, and vice versa, where the easements are that may be encroaching on private property, or the actual road is encroaching on government property, on private property. So that assessment is being done.
Senator, if I could add, several years ago, Senator Rodriguez had introduced a bill to compensate landowners for that horseshoe loop. And I think at that time, the estimate was $70 million. Most of these major roads, Route 1 and the other routed roads, were put in by the military. And when they got to Jonia, right at the Cross Island Road, Route 17, the Organic Act came in. So at that point, it became the local government's responsibility to develop roads, condemn property for roads. And so that's why you see that horseshoe, that loop from Route 17, that intersection near Senator Agun's house, and then going down in Alahan, Talafofo, and all that. That's why those proper roads have not been developed with federal highway funds, because they haven't been done. Routed roads, when you call a road a route, they're supposed to already have been surveyed, severed, and condemned, or land exchange with the private landowner. But an example is Route 4A, the Talafofo Bay overlook that goes into the village. That's called Route 4A, but that road hasn't been condemned, hasn't been dedicated for the. So as a result, federal highway funds can't be used for that, not only to repair the roads, but to put new guardrails on that property.
Thank you for your answers. I appreciate it, gentlemen. Thank you.
Senator Sinogany has another question.
No, just a simple question for Vince. You know how the crosswalk down in Tumon is, the major one by DFS? When you can cross the intersection, everybody can cross from all directions. Right. How could that be possible for ITC, the mall? I mean, the major intersections where, there's a lot of folks crossing. JFK, Kmart, ITC, and the mall. And the only reason why I say, because when JFK breaks,
right,
they're only waiting for one cross, when they should be able to cross in whatever direction, just stop the traffic.
That is Marine, downtown Tumon, that's a two-lane road, right? I don't know what the utilization is on the road, but definitely, like I said, Marine Drive, we got 30,000 cars traveling. I think doing something would cause traffic to back up exponentially. Specifically with Kmart, though, and JFK, we've spoken. I've spoken with the principal there about the traffic there, because at one point parents were lining up on the outer lane all the way past Triple J. So they've stopped that. They've brought everybody inside. Then number two, we talked to them about the students. So they actually have, what do they call, school aides or something, that come and let the students cross. They probably have, I've seen it, I've been there. So they probably in 2 batches, 3 at the most. Because a lot of students and their parents wait for them at Kmart. A lot of students also park at Kmart. I don't know how Kmart allows that, but it happens. But I think JFK is controlled there. ITC, that's Guam's busiest intersection. I don't know what we're going to have to take a look at and see the traffic of pedestrians there.
The reason why I ask that is that how long is it when you press the button? 20 seconds?
Usually 24.
Normally 20 seconds. Yeah. The clock is ticking. I mean, the hand comes up. And I'm just trying to understand when you say it, the traffic be tremendously backlogged. Come on, 20 seconds? Some of them are still doing this number on me on the road. And ZPD comes back like, hey, get off your cell phone. We all drive down the road. There are some folks that think Monday to Friday is still Sunday. The 20 seconds are already there. Stop everybody, let everybody cross, and they're done. That's all I'm asking. Is it possible? Because I think whatever's happening that's benefiting the people in 2-1 should benefit the people in general throughout that.
Okay.
All right?
We'll take a look at that.
All right, thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
I just want to ask about if there's a traffic study relative to the speed limit. I don't know if GPD has the answer to that.
Actually, one of our traffic engineers was out here about a year ago, and he really wanted to increase the speed limit in certain areas. Dedido to Jigo, Sumai, and I said, I need to talk to these guys because they're the guys, they're boots on the ground, man. They see and live this every day. And we also have to work this with our Office of Highway Safety. Guam does not have good drivers, Senator. Our drivers are not good. I always, this is my standing line. If the governor ever puts me at revenue and tax, there go driver's license issuance. I'm just going to stop it. I think our drivers need a lot better education. They need to pay attention a little bit more. They need to be more cognizant of other drivers. You know, we get these lane blockers who go in the inside lane or supposedly the passing lane, and then they drop their speed to like 25 miles or 30 miles an hour. And so everyone just starts swinging around lanes. You know, just drive down here and you'll see it. Drive up north and you'll see the traffic patterns. Everyone's just trying to escape the slow driver. You know, until, you know, if anyone has driven in the States and driven in the freeways, if you're going to do 50, 60, this is your lane, you stay here. If you're going to do 70 or 80, this is your lane here, and everybody knows it. On Guam, it's the exact opposite. The passing lane is on the outer lane. Why? Because drivers are uneducated. They're not courteous. They're not paying attention. We just have bad drivers here. So I'd be real worried about increasing the speed limit. We certainly have to study that. I mean, I can tell you, we already know in Sumai nobody does 35. That's a fact. Nobody does 35.
Can we at least go 50? Because then they're gonna bid me down to 45, then 40, and then, you know. Just kidding. Oh, I just wanted to find out if
that has to be studied.
Okay.
You know, we study it with data. We study it with GPD. How many citations have been done in that area? You know, because we control also. We work with GPD to do the DUI checkpoints. We do the radars with them. We do, you know, that's our Office of Highway Safety.
Okay.
And so they've got all the data on that. So we'll take a look at that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for all your hard work. Did you guys want to add comment to that? No? Follow his lead? Okay. So are the traffic studies continuous, or how do we update them? Okay. Okay, and then one more thing. This is it. You know the markers on the road. Is it possible to make them glow in the dark for areas that are dark? And then the other one is, I remember when growing up, we had bubbles on the road that like made you wake up when you're like, you know, not supposed to be, but when you're tired and you're swerving onto the other lane, it's like, you know, it like wakes you up like speed bumps.
Yeah,
but you know, you're not supposed to be tired, but you know, I'm just saying for the record that the road used to have those like bullets on the road.
like rumble strips.
Yeah, so yes. They don't really have that these days.
They don't.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, a lot of this is based on it's called MUTCD, and I'm sorry, I forget what that acronym stands for. It's a manual on uniform
so it's
traffic,
a standard.
Something, yeah.
Okay. Right. So no glow in the.
We refer to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Someone asked me on Instagram. Sorry, you can't have glow in the dark strips.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. With that being it, anyone else have any comments or further concerns to address? No. Okay. With that being said, if there are no further questions or testimonies, we will conclude this hearing. The committee will continue to accept testimony for the next few days. Testimonies will be sent to via Office of Senator Quinata at guamlegislature.org. or delivered physically to the office of Senator Roy A.B. Quinata at Suite 807 DNA Building 238, Archbishop F.C. Flores, Street, Hagåtña, Guam 96910. A recording of today's hearing will be available on YouTube and the Guam Legislature media channels. This concludes the roundtable, and it is currently 4:07. Thank you again for your time. Have a great day. Drive safe.